Woody's Share My Mood.
We're here with Kate Langbroek.
Yes.
Kate, I mean, this is how we kicked it off last time. I think it's a great way to start. What is your mood at the moment? How are you feeling?
Goodness, we've gone straight in.
Yeah.
What about a hello?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Well, I think that was kind of the way I was trying to do it. It's like, how you going?
Well, actually, that
how
is
you going?
hello,
That's
how
probably
are
a nice
you,
way
but
to
it's
say
a
it.
genuine how are you.
Yeah. How you
Okay,
feeling?
I get it.
How you feeling?
Do we
How
want to go
do
there?
you think I am, Woody?
Oh, no.
That is an outrageous spin early. That is ridiculous.
Hey, you know what? We were just saying this. We were saying this beforehand. Woody was like, "Oh, I'm fucked," and I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "She's just gonna flip everything on me and
Well,
just go
you know.
straight into
That's
it."
why wouldn't you? I mean, you two sit there, you've got your racket worked out with each other.
Oh, it's so
You
good.
just come in, there's a third player.
You pick me like a nose, to bring up that analogy again. You read me like a book. But can I can I say though, Kate? So you just said you love me, and I enjoyed that because
Yes.
I love you too.
Yes.
And I was going to actually DM you a couple of weeks ago, and then I found out we were going to have you in the studio. So I think it's better to deliver this
To DM me in person.
Yeah, to DM you in person, just like the old days. And I wanted to say to you that I've known you for a while now, and we've had interactions along the way. And something I've picked up around you is that I feel like you have the freedom of not caring too much what people think of you, whilst not losing any of your warmth.
Is this a compliment or an insult?
No, without losing any of your warmth.
Well,
And I feel like that is a really, really rare trait that people have, and I think you have it in spades. And
you know, I think it's probably more rare now. I think it is. I think you're right. It is rare, whether or not I have it, but I don't. That's something that if you work in the area that we work in, which is basically you guys are talking for, 15 hours a week minimum without scripts. So at some point you're going to say something and people are not going to like it.
Sure, yeah. of
Chances are.
Chances are probably within the next minute. Don't turn off, people. But and in the cancelled and blah blah, and so people are very fearful. They're very fearful of ideas. They're very fearful to show themselves, and so that's why I think people feel a bit malnourished by the media that they're getting because everything's so sanitized. Because people are anticipating how people are going to come for them before they've even said anything, but. Someone asked me about this the other day. A girlfriend of mine said it, not the way that you did, and I think it's because I grew up already other. So because I was raised a Jehovah's Witness and there were never any other Jehovah's Witnesses at my school, and we lived in New Guinea and we're the only Jehovah's Witness family in the whole, in Bougainville and then on Sahana, this little island, whatever. So, and then when I went to high school, there were like 2 other Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
And then they left in year 10 and I was so I've always been
The outsider.
Different.
Yeah.
And so you've always had to
Yeah.
put up with people questioning your stance on things or your viewpoint or where you come from.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe also
And you learn that if you burn them back, then you're just going to screw that thing rather than maybe kind of just being with it.
I think also the concept of, like, most of us don't want to be cast out,
Yeah.
but the concept of being cast out is not that I want it, and but so the concept of being cast out is not as
Doesn't scare you.
scary
Yeah.
for me as because when I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, I was cast out. I was already cast out from normal Australian society because I was a Jehovah's Witness. Then when I left the Witnesses, I was cast out by them. So it's like,
How did that go? Were you
that's
when you
so
say you cast
interesting.
out the Jehovah's Witnesses, does that mean like excommunicated in like the old
Yeah,
old school
well,
Catholic sort of terminology here?
sort of. Well, I
Wow.
wasn't formally,
Okay.
which was really lucky. So it meant my parents could still talk to
I was
me.
just that was the next question I was going to ask. Your
Yeah.
mum and dad, how
Yeah.
did that affect your relationship with them?
Well, I had 5 blissful years where they didn't talk to me.
Oh my God.
Oh, it was great.
Really? You're
It was
kidding.
actually great because when they were
How old
talking
were
to
you?
me, 18, when they were talking
Wow.
to me, it was all like my mum saying things like, "Your father lies in the dark with tears streaming down his face."
Oh my
So
goodness
I'm
gracious.
like, oh, okay, okay. So
Shit. So you're 18 and then you were like, nah, not for me.
Because I always knew.
Yeah. But you had to wait till you were an adult, in inverted commas, to be able to say that and have all your rights, so you could actually nick off in your own terms. And then they were like, okay,
I
cool,
wanted
we'll
it
go.
to be right for me. It wasn't that I was like, the irony is I used to pray to Jehovah to make me a good Jehovah's Witness. And guess what? He didn't.
Do it for
He
you.
didn't. So, just...
It's a great trap, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's genius almost.
is.
Faith in general is really just a very clever setup, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Hey, just keep tipping your time into this. It'll come back, I
Correct.
promise.
Yeah.
And then the really good people show you where it's come back to you. And you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even realise.
So true. But, of course, you can't operate without faith.
Exactly.
So it's just finding where that
The
lies
balance
for you
is.
or whatever. But
Have you-
anyway,
have you got
thank
any-
you, Woody.
That's okay,
That
but
was
I'll-
nice.
It was
you're so,
lovely.
and I really, really do mean that. And I've thought about it for a while because I always feel really great after our interactions.
Oh,
Like,
do you?
every time we bump
Even
into
the
each other.
private ones?
But I laugh, and you've got this warmth about you, and I always walk away feeling more energetic.
Yeah,
And-
good. I love that because that's what we try. That's almost exactly what we're doing on the Buck Up, my podcast.
Oh, brilliant.
Exactly
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Our money back guarantee that you will feel better at the end of it than you did at the start.
Yes, and I feel like I just think we're surrounded by so many serious things now, which it's great that
The times are heavy.
the times are really, really heavy, and it's really nice. I think when you can go so far the other way sometimes just to get a break from the seriousness. Not to say that we should all put our heads in the
Yes.
sand. It's important to know about the serious things that are going on, but every now and then it's lovely to have an interaction with you or your podcast where it's like, oh, I just got to laugh
Because
for a bit
also,
there, and
I think that we've equated heaviness with worthiness. And so everyone wants to be worthy and they don't want to be seen to be casual or superficial or they want to be deep and they want to blah, blah. And that's great.
yeah, no, yeah.
It's great. It seems to be working really well for the world, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The same way that a comedy film has never won an Academy Award.
Yes.
But if you put some putty on your nose and you
whatever, seriously,
then you get an Academy Award.
Yeah, it's so true.
Well, not to say that that's not an accomplishment,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
comedy is seen as somehow being flippant and frivolous and
not to be taken seriously.
and what you
which-
guys do is actually very important and a gift to the world because that is what gives people the breath and the strength and the life and the joy to continue wading through the mire and
the tough
misery of modern life.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%.
So
That's a
I
really
just
good-
think it's great.
That's a really great point, I think, Kate. And because I've been thinking about this the other day because I've got a bad relationship with that because of the way that I think my parents dealt with grief a lot of the time, both of them in medicine. And it's always like if something sad's coming up, it's always like, this is heavy. We've got to
Right.
get through with
Yeah.
serious conversations. And so for a very long time, I think really probably before I met Woody, would be like, well, I can't muck around here. And I think a lot of the time on air,
Right.
if we're talking to someone and it's about something serious, I would find myself
You'll
just getting
go
so
right in.
trapped in it.
Yeah.
But then I more recently have discovered that like the freedom and the release of laughter during a really tough time
Right.
is like the people that can do that. It doesn't mean that they care less.
No.
In fact, it almost just for me trumpets the fact that they're really wise because they're not so heavily involved with it that they're able to still hold it close without getting too caught up in it.
What drew you to like your with your background? What drew you to like comedy? It must have been that you must have known that you needed the antidote to.
Maybe.
Because that's bizarre that you.
it is funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
But also that you came to comedy, but with a really deep and
Heavy.
miserable.
Heavy.
That's the sad clown, isn't it? It's the
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
It is
you're a
interesting.
lucky guy, Woody. Just amazing.
I want to tie that in. You were mentioning your podcast before, and I feel this kind of like ties in actually a few different things that we were just talking about at them because we were just talking about the fact that the times are heavy. There's sort of like a particular, there's a temperature in the country right now very much to do with the relationship between women and men.
Yes.
And I really wanted to talk to you about this because I was kind of flicking through some notes here that I've got. And you are because you got this new podcast with Nate Valvo.
Yes.
Okay, that just doesn't need to be heavy.
He's going back to his roots. He's going back to his roots.
It doesn't need to be heavy. It doesn't need to be heavy.
All right,
it doesn't need to
go.
be.
Yeah.
You got this new podcast with
Yeah.
Nate called The Buck Up. Obviously, you're with Hughesy for nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
One-on-one with another guy there. Obviously, you've got your relationship with Peter.
Yeah.
And I feel like you are
I have 3 sons.
and you've got 3 boys. And you're sort of heralded as, in a lot of ways, this beautiful, fun-loving, free woman, but you work constantly so closely with men.
Yes.
And I find that very interesting, inspirational in a lot of ways. And because I often find myself as a man in the current times hating on my own species, if you like.
Yes.
And I think
not helpful.
Exactly. And I think that the way out of this sort of Mexican standoff, if you like, between our sexes is people like you who are willing to go, yes, there are lots of deficiencies there, but unless we kind of just get on with things, we're not going to get anywhere. And I really want to know how you work with men so well and why you work with men so well.
Wow. Well, I think like all relationships that they work best if they're I mean, this is going to sound, but if you love the person. And sometimes you have to, like in any relationship, you have to find what you love about them. So you don't necessarily start loving the whole package. But I love talent, for instance, and I love humour. So with Hugh, who was so complicated for a long time of our working relationship, as people are. Well, not for a long time actually, but
when you
initially.
say Hugh, you mean Hughesy, right?
Yeah, Hughesy.
I didn't know that you called him Hugh.
I call him Huey.
I had no idea.
And I
that
call
you called
him Huey because my father, years and years ago, when I was doing community radio, and Hughesy would come on once a week if he remembered and his alarm went off. He came on as a guest, and my father heard it. I didn't even know that he knew how to listen to community radio, but he said to me, "Oh, Dad's Dutch." He goes, "Oh, Dad, Huey, he's so cute. I find him very cute." My dad said,
Yeah.
and Huey just kind of stuck, right?
Yeah,
So I
right.
call him Huey. Anyway, so I think you start. For starters, I love men. I love men. No, like I love women, right? And
like you love women?
yeah, I love women as well.
Right. Okay.
I love
sexually.
yeah.
Are we talking or like?
Oh, you idiot.
Well, I just like when you said
you wish.
Well,
Well,
when
now you become Carl Sanderlands. Right now.
No, but I'm actually interested because you said I
Yes.
love men, and then you said
Yes.
like I love women, and
Yeah,
I was like,
right.
well, hang on, in what way do you love them the same way? Like, are we talking? Because
Well,
you might
there's
just you might
nuance.
appreciate them.
I don't know if you
There's a
know this,
difference,
Will, but
right?
there's nuance in the world.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, you know that in the Bible there's names for all the different kinds of love. Or the Greeks have got agape, which is romantic love, and Philadelphia, that movie, Philos. Why are you nodding, Tom? I'm looking to him like he nodded like
Philos,
he knew.
Philadelphia with Tom Hanks.
That's brotherly love.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so
that's
they've
cool.
got different names.
Okay.
Eros, erotic love.
Yeah. Nice.
Anyway, so I have
You
some
have
sort of.
Philos.
I
for
don't
men
have
and
the
women.
island of Lesbos love for women. I've tried it in the past.
What did
It
you
wasn't
mean that
for
you love
me.
them in the same way? You just like you love people in general. Like there's
Yes,
no,
but not as a blanket
You're not
thing.
discriminating between them as different
No,
sorts of
I'm
things.
just qualifying
Yeah,
that I
It's
love.
not a sexual thing.
Yeah, that if men were drowning in a lake and women were drowning in a lake and I could only rescue one,
Yeah.
I'd have to.
It'd be hard.
It'd be. I'd have to be a really good swimmer
Yeah.
with big wide arms. I'd be like the door in Titanic. Only one of you can fit on me. Anyway, but I think you look for what you love about the person.
Yeah, this is
And
awesome. Yeah, okay.
What I love about, but I do think in life that your strength is often also your weakness. I just think it is. Like women are kind and soft and gentle. Not all of them, but kind and soft and gentle and thoughtful and anticipatory of other people's needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that means they end up in professions where they're kind of exploited for that traditionally, like childcare, nursing, blah, 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 blah.
Overly considerate. Yeah.
So your strength is your weakness.
Yeah.
For men, their physical strength, their grappling with is a literal strength, but it can also be their weakness when it's turned against women.
Yeah.
So for me, the question is, what happens in a man that would happen to him? And I believe what happens is pornography as a foundational concept.
Yeah.
So all these men who might be weeping and whatever, good men with good intent going, oh, it's terrible, and as men we need to call this out.
Yeah.
Not many of them are calling out pornography.
No. Or they're probably all still going home and, jerking it to something pretty intense a couple of times a week.
Well, that's it. And so it's a time to really be honest with yourself about what you want. And these are good men, not bad men.
No.
But
no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like it is entirely no, it's not entirely. I shouldn't say that. But a lot of this is like totally subconscious, totally subliminal. And I feel like, I know you've got boys as well, but I had to have a pretty confronting conversation with my partner a couple of months ago when she sent me a podcast about sex, which was on Diary of a CEO, which was with this orgasm expert. I'm pretty sure I told the whole team about it because I was so blown away by it.
Yeah.
And this chick she was just like, can you listen to this? And because we're sort of like struggling to have sort of like real intimacy and desire in our relationship after we had a baby.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was just going in there with I now realize 15-year-old boy understanding of sex, which I picked up from listening to my mates talk about how they had sex. Everything else in your life, you watch people as to how they do it. But sex, you're not watching anybody up close doing that.
Well, you're not supposed to.
No, exactly.
It's actually contrary to everything that you know in the essence of yourself. Even though it's like 7-Elevens, they're open all night to sell junk food. You're not supposed to, but you can. And so now we live in a society where because we can, we think we should.
Yes.
Or we kind of just blur it out.
But but there was no way to do that when I was 15. All I could do was watch this CD that got sent to me and, listen to my mates. There was a CD that got passed around the whole year level. You probably had the same CD. And we all
We had a, what's it called?
USB, a thumb drive. And we all watched the same ones and then we'd go and talk about them and then we'd talk about how we had whatever sexual encounters we had with chicks on the weekend. And then that until, I'm 34 now, obviously had sexual experiences with different women along the way who taught me different things along the way.
Yeah.
But it took a woman saying to me at each stage, and thank you to all of those women with enough patience to be like, that, what are you doing? Like, that's not how this is, works. And it's not
your
intuitive.
Pathways for intimacy are developing now.
Yeah.
But they were stunted by whatever happened.
Well, and it's a clear cut. And the first thing this woman says is that like penis in vagina sex is the most enjoyable thing for a man.
I can't even look at you when you say that.
Okay.
I just have to look away.
That's fine.
Look at what he's looking at me as well.
Look at me.
I'm
Yeah, I can't look at him.
But like as a guy,
I should turn the lights off. Oh, that'd be weirder.
What's happened?
That'd be
Could
weirder.
we just slip out, let him? Would he notice? Do you think if he starts, if he enters this world, and then we'll just slip back in?
But movies as well, right? Like it's obviously pornography, but like I feel like I learned a lot about sex just through Hollywood films. And let's use James Bond as an example. James Bond never
Pussy
said
galore?
He never said to Pussy Galore,
what?
Hey, what are you after here from this experience? Or like what's going to feel good for you here? Bondy would just get straight in there.
I love that.
I've just
That's awesome. Imagine. What exactly are you after?
Don't worry, because they're recasting James Bond, and they probably will have there'll be some kind of sensitivity training he has to go on.
He'll have to.
He'll be a DEI guy, diversity, equity, and inclusion. He'll be that guy.
That's going to be the villain.
But my thing is, I think that men are magnificent creatures, and the reason that we have survived as a species is because of the characteristics that men have of aggression,
Yeah.
of strength, of competitiveness, of the hunting, the whatever. But in our society, when those are misplaced, misused or broken.
Or redundant as well.
Well,
like also to the point where you're kind of going into work with, or wherever you're going in your life, you're genetically imbued with this idea that you're going to get in there and kick some ass, and you're not, and you don't do your taekwondo or your rock climbing on the weekend,
that's right. But
because you've got to take it out. It's awful. I mean, and I don't like that excuse either, which is evolutionary sense. I ended up here. Like, be better than that. But if you're not conscious of it and you're not thinking about it. It 100% gets the better of you, because you're not.
Yeah, of course, because biology is one thing, and
exactly,
this is
you
another.
can overtop it. But I think the point for me here, Kate, is that you're in. And I'm not saying that either Nate Falvo, Husey, or your husband Peter are like this, but I feel like in each of those situations, and maybe Woody brought this up at the very start with you, you are in a situation where you're able to kind of absorb a lot and still see where the loving path is. In each of those situations where you are the woman with a man, where a lot of the time I imagine a lot of women wouldn't be able to put up with or have the patience or even the love to continue to be who you are in a pretty male-dominated space.
It is male-dominated mostly, especially if you work in comedy. But I don't know. I think also... it takes two to tango. There's a willingness in all those people, those men, to also recognise in me which not all male comedians have, by the way,
really,
who are historically just quite dismissive of women or whatever. Not all of them, but I just think I just love that engagement. I love the engagement of the energy between, the classic, the yin and the yang, the feminine and the male, the whatever. And I love that.
The conversation.
I just think it's beautiful and uplifting and everyone gets to enjoy each other in a way that is perfect. And sometimes the perfection is in the imperfection, as Husey taught me. And he also taught me a lot.
Yeah. So can I go back to that? Because this is, you were in a great spot here. You were talking about you're doing community radio. Husey's popping on every now and then, or Huey, and then you said you need to find the thing that you loved in someone.
Yes.
What was the thing that you loved in him?
I loved his self-made manness, like properly wrong side of the tracks, like came from a background where... he recognised in himself when he was like 21 or whatever that the booze was no good for him.
He became a teetotaler, didn't he? Pretty early on.
Early. And from his town.
Yeah.
Was he in WA for a while?
Country
as
town.
well?
Yeah, he went to WA where he picked cucumbers, and I still think of him. Interpret this how you will. Whenever I handle a cucumber, I often think of Husey because he taught me when they're spiky, they're ready.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're right.
Oh, that's great to know.
Yeah.
That's great to know.
Actually, now maybe it's when they're not spiky, they're ready. Anyway, I just think of him when I'm handling a cucumber, but I can't remember why.
Oh, no.
Anyway, and he did things and he got into, who was that book that had that self-help book? I think it was a diet one as well. Whoever that was, it must have been in the 90s
Been
or
a few.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the guy who died jogging.
Oh.
Anyway, whatever. And he loved it so much, he bought copies of that book himself and went door to door selling them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's always wanted to be he always wants to spread the truth of something that he knows, right?
Wow.
Which sometimes,
is there a direct correlation there between your dad and him in that sense? Like your dad is a preacher and him
maybe.
Spreading some sort
I
of
just
truth?
admired what he had done.
Yeah.
And then, but he was quite, it was challenging, no doubt challenging for us to work out
what your dynamic is.
Yeah. But then I was just like, well, let's just go and see. And, I got 4 kids. I got a husband. I got life. I don't have time to be analysing myself. You analyse yourself too much.
I do.
I'm pointing at Will, by the way.
Yeah. Sure it's not me? Could be a little bit of that. No.
Look, he's desperate to get into the conversation. What about me?
Now he's out.
I also analyse myself. But,
Bit of
there be monsters, that if you just keep digging in the thing, you keep knocking the top off a scab, sometimes you just have to leave it and go over there for a while.
And you're talking about
something
how you
else.
think about yourself.
Yeah.
And do you think that because I really want to talk to you about this as well, do you think that being a mum sort of changed that as well?
I'm sure.
Because it has to, right?
I'm sure.
I
Well,
think
if you're doing it properly,
right?
it has to.
I think
and
one of
if
the
you're not
motivations
changed by it, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, because you all of a sudden you're like, I don't have time to think about myself, particularly when you have 4 children.
That's true.
Right.
Which is, like life, that's testing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you don't like it
Yeah.
because it's natural to want for you not want to be last on this list of needs. But then also I have to remind myself it was my idea.
Yeah.
It was not.
It's good to know that you were consenting in all of
Well,
that.
I think we start with that. That is like our basic building block.
It's amazing how things you used to stress about, though, become not so stressful when you've got kids.
Yes.
I find.
What would you stress about before that you don't now?
Everything.
Yeah, right.
Going through day to day, there'd be small things that'd be like, I'm worried about that, I'm overthinking about that.
Right.
Whereas
Yes.
now I'm like, I've got a child.
Yes.
And she's going well, she's healthy,
Yeah. And
how
also
can
I even sometimes think when you come in the door at the end of a day, particularly when your kids are really little, that I would be like, I'm going to sit down and try and turn on the television or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't do that because you walk in the door with someone who needs something immediately, like they need a nappy change or they need something to eat or they need to get ready for bed or they need to. So you have to find in you, even at the point you thought you were at your lowest ebb and there was nothing left in the tank, you have to find more in the tank.
Totally.
And that's why I think parents are incredible and families, Australian families, like this whole, the pressure that people are under at the moment is just so cruel. And also why people don't have time to mutiny because they don't have the time and they don't have the energy. Because they're nation building.
They're
nation building without help
or something like that. Because
who's got time?
I know. Someone said that to me the other day. They were talking about the fact that they were, worried about their partner and they were working a lot and all this sort of stuff. And it actually came up. I want to bring up something that I was watching last night, but I'll get there in a second. Which was, and anyway, she said to me, I think he could be like about to have an affair. And I was like, I know this guy. He hasn't got time to scratch his own ass right now.
Yeah.
Like, he's so exhausted.
But still people do
They
find.
could do it. Of course they
do.
could do
They
it.
do find
Now,
time.
look, I want to ask you something about parenting because this sort of came to me secondhand, but I thought it was the most brilliant analogy and I've 100% plagiarized it a number of times. So I was talking to Hugh Van Cuylenberg. He had a third kid recently.
Yeah.
And he said he bumped into you when he had a third kid. Yeah. And you gave him an analogy about falling out of the second level of a pub.
Being drunk.
Right.
Can you?
I can't actually remember it, but he's told me that I said that to him.
That was.
Is it that you're so drunk you hit the ground and you don't injure yourself?
Yes, because you kind of like you're falling through the air, but you're so drunk, you sort of you
don't
relaxed,
break any bones,
so you don't stiffen up, you don't break any bones. And I think you said to him, "That's parenting. As soon as you accept that you're fucked, you can relax.
Yeah, and then you just go with it.
Carry on.
And it's like you were saying before, you don't have time to and tense up about everything. You just have to, at some point, like exhaustion is a blessing in disguise. But the blessing is you're just like, whatever.
So that ties in. Yeah. So that ties in with this film I was watching last night. Actually, Woody's recommendation and Tommy. I watched the Sofia Coppola movie On the Rocks with Bill Murray.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been meaning to watch it for a long time.
What happens in it?
So basically, she thinks her partner's having an affair, Marlon Wayans, and it's just a couple of things that are going wrong. Her dad, she's got this kind of like, he kind of very paternalistic relationship with her dad, but she loves him. Bill Murray's the dad.
Rich playboy.
He kind of sweeps in.
Okay. Yeah. Not far from the truth.
No, exactly. He sweeps in, basically convinces her that the guy is having an affair, her husband is having an affair, and the movie is about the father and the daughter trying to bust this girl's husband for what's going on.
Yeah.
And there's just such a great commentary, firstly, on this generation of dads because and the position that the woman is in that scenario, which is so interesting because Woody and I both have daughters, and there were so many moments where I was watching it going, oh my God, I want to be like Bill Murray. And then I realized that the thing I was aspiring to was the thing that she was hating about him. And I was like, oh no, I can't. That's so funny that that's in my head. But the other part about it, which I thought was really interesting and what we were just touching on then, is she's a mum, obviously. So she's staying at home. She's got 2 kids. Her partner's running around having an affair, whatever. He's big in business. And again, it was funny. I was sitting next to Sam watching it, just like, we laughed about it. I was like, this is just us. So many times it's us. And he said this line to her, which just totally cut me in half, because I've definitely said it to Sam before while she's been at home being a mum and I've been running around. And I said, it was, you need to make time for yourself, is what he says to her. And it's just the most out of touch line, because it's just I haven't got time to make time for myself.
You can't make time.
Exactly. Like that is the most out of touch
and you also
thing.
know it, and that, but you can't.
You can't change it.
And that makes you angry.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it makes you angry. Yeah,
So
I hear it.
I really wanted to tie that in with a question I've been wanting to ask you about being a mum and being a person, and how, if at all, you differentiate between those two things. Because I know I see you at music festivals from a distance sometimes, and I know that you're also a mum, and I kind of I really admire that capacity that you have.
Well, so there was like a period in my life when I was nothing but a mum, which was when Lewis, our eldest son, had leukemia.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was 4 years where I was like not even probably a mum. I didn't, I had 3 other little kids, and I didn't have a square to spare for anything except hospital or trying to give the other 3 or.
What stage of radio was that or career was that?
That was when I was doing breakfast radio with Hughesy at Nova.
Yeah. So you're doing Nova breakfast radio, which we've done breakfast radio for 4 years. Yeah. That by itself demanding. Yeah. You're getting up really early every day, going to that grind 5 days a week. Yeah. Same time Lewis was going through leukemia.
Yeah. So there were a lot of those shows, particularly in the first 6 months, that I wasn't at, that we never explained on air.
Yeah. So Hughesy would have known?
Hughesy knew. The whole team knew. And in fact, a lot of journalists and stuff knew. That everyone was so respectful about it. It was so amazing at the time. And our inner circle knew, all the comedians knew, and Mick Malloy was amazing at the time, and Helia. They were just like, I think some mornings I would call Sash, our producer, from that, if I couldn't leave the hospital or we were at home or whatever, a million reasons, and I'd be like, I can't make it, and they were like, whenever, whatever, we will come. Wow. They were magnificent. Hughesy was magnificent, and our relationship went to another level then, particularly one day when he came into the Children's Hospital, and it was Melbourne Cup Day, I think. It was some horsey day, and I remember they'd set up a TV
viewing
station.
Yep.
But the kids were supposed to do their own content, but they couldn't, and so there were some adults. They got so excited, the grown-ups who were running this kids' TV station, that Hughesy was coming in, so they asked him, and I said, I'll ask him if he'll come down, and of course he always would say yes, but it was so confronting, and it was so hard. And he was just so beautiful. But afterwards, I was just so full of respect for him. Any of our friends who walked into the Children's Hospital, into the cancer unit, or I'm sure other parts of the hospital, that is, I do not underestimate the gift and what it took for them to do that. And I also understand friends of ours who couldn't and didn't.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, because it's just too much.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because they just couldn't do it.
Too much empathy.
They couldn't do it. Or whatever they were. Too shallow, too much empathy, too brutal for them, whatever, humans. So in that period, I was nothing but a mum. And then I, as the kids got a little bit older, and then we got to rejoice.
Sorry, can I just take you back there? Where you're just like, that period, I only know how to be a mum. Is that just because your instincts just in overdrive there, or you're just like, I've got to look after this boy and that's the only thing that matters?
I think if you have ever tried to save someone from dying, which, as my mum says, you live long enough, bad things are going to happen, which will happen to everyone at some. If you live long enough, someone you love will die.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you have a child, your father instinct, which was interesting with Peter, and mother instinct is, I have to keep this child alive.
Yeah, wow.
It just is. Like, who else is going to do it? And even when there were times where it seemed like we were losing, that was so terrible. You couldn't even fathom how people could continue beyond that. And I'm very cognizant of the fact that we had a favourable outcome eventually. But the impetus that you have, it's not born from strength. I'd never felt like those mothers that you see pushing a car off a kid.
No.
I never felt strong. I felt weak.
Wow.
I felt weak, but I still kept going.
Which ironically is the strength, isn't it?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess
You're
that
feeling
is.
so
yeah,
shattered.
that's true. That's true.
But you're
but
just
I
putting one foot in
never
front of the
felt
other.
like I'm a super mum or I'm a whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I would go into the show, it would be the only 2 or 3 hours a day that wasn't about cancer. And it was such a, oh my gosh, it was so
relief.
Oh
yeah. How funny is that?
Oh my
Radio's
God.
so
Work
funny
is a
like that.
salvation.
Yeah, it is.
Work is
Totally.
a salvation.
It is,
Especially
No
with
matter-
what we do, which is often it's light, it's fun, and you get to just like put your life aside for however long, 2 hours, 3 hours, and just go back to
And
raw
even though it
fun
was always there,
and
it must have been, and especially for the people around me who knew, but that was I was just taking anything that was a salvation at that point.
And what made you decide, Kate, to eventually tell people, and by people I mean Australia, when you spoke about it?
So it was actually on Lewis's birthday, or my birthday. His birthday's the day before mine. So I'm the 8th of the 8th and he's the 7th of the 8th. So he was like such a good birthday present. And on his birthday, when he had finished treatment, so he must have been 10, it must have been the day after, I think it was my birthday, I came in and I just said to Sash, I'm going to talk about it. And she knew instantly, and Husey, they knew instantly what that meant. And Husey was like, are you sure? And I went, yes, I have to.
Yeah.
Because this is, sometimes you have to pave the way by welcoming what you hope is going to happen rather than waiting for it to happen. Do you know what I mean?
Almost like what people would say, like almost like manifesting it.
Or fake it till you make it, or whatever. You feel shit, you put on a smile. You feel much better. Than you would going out with a grimace. Even though you don't think you've got a smile. I suppose it was like that. And also, I had to believe that everything was all right. So now I could share it.
Wow.
And also it was Lewis's story when he was sick. And I also could not have borne it to be with him publicly, which I was with a bald child.
Yeah.
But for people to be coming up, and I didn't have that for those conversations either.
Yeah,
I just didn't have it. But then I was like, you know what, it's time.
Yeah.
And also because of our relationship with our listeners, I didn't want to have that as a secret. And I wanted to be able to talk to Sash and Husey about it. So we talked about it that morning. And I think Husey had the wherewithal to go, well, no, don't talk about it 6 o'clock in the morning. At least wait till 8 o'clock. Because,
people are still waking up.
He's great. And also that was actually appropriate, because then I had to call Peter, my husband, and say, this is one of them, my mother-in-law, and so members of the family and my mum and dad to say, I'm going to talk about this.
What a weird situation that we're in that respect, that like there are people that listen to you enough for you to feel as if you're not being honest to them by not sharing what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
And I don't know about, but you always feel like if I'm on air, I mean, it's the same when I've got mental health issues. It's almost like I can't fake this, and I know that you can kind of tell that I'm not here all the way.
Right. Yeah, because I think that's what you owe the audience.
I agree.
Something.
I agree.
And that's why,
it's weird.
going back to you saying about, people feeling free or me being free to be myself, I think that's what we owe the audience. So I hate that po face. Let's pull the proper face because or whatever.
The
I
sock.
hate people being sock. I hate people being performative, and it is showbiz, so there is an aspect of it as well. But I think the reason that there's no people like show people who smile when they are low is because you find that part of yourself and bring that forward without
you can choose
without hiding the other part. It's
different,
still
isn't it?
there,
Yeah.
but also because that is what the band that played while the Titanic was going down.
Yeah.
Why isn't there a fucking movie made about them?
Yeah.
Right, it's all right for Leo with his 26-year-old models. Yeah, great. You're the king of the world. We know, mate. But what about the band that played while the Titanic was going down? Those people, and that is what showbiz is.
Yeah, well said.
They're showbiz people. Yep. And I reckon that is just what you... And also, why do people in showbiz think they're so fucking special that they can't talk about I'm keeping my relationship secret or whatever they do? Do you know what I mean? When I hear people say that, I'm like, how does get fucked sound? Like, really? You think that falling in love is so peculiar to you?
Yeah. It's special for me.
Yeah,
who cares?
Yeah.
And you're making it a bigger
you
thing by
make
acting.
people care,
like,
so it's a conceit. It's such a conceit. Anyway, that's what I think.
So hang on. So this is thank you. This is such a good answer. But I do want to get back to because I think we're talking about you being a mum and Lewis is okay now.
Yeah.
So this instinctive motherly muscle has maybe relaxed a little bit. Is there? Do you feel a bit of an opening after Lewis is sort of stable, and then you're like, "Who am I again?"
A bit of a while to not have a trigger finger.
Yeah.
And then that was what sort of came with the process of his recovery, which was then we had monthly checkups, and then 3 monthly checkups, and then 6 monthly checkups, and now we have annual checkups, and now he's in the long-term effects clinic because he had radiation and he had chemo.
Wow.
So it's not
over.
Well, I hope it's over, but it's not done, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I say everyone has a cloud over them, and most of us just don't know what our cloud is. But with Lewis, we know what the cloud is.
Yeah.
There's a very sort of different way to live, but yet we also execute through faith, our faith that he is a part of the world and will continue to be a part of the world and is a beautiful part of the world that you just continue hoping everything will be all right.
So I don't know the cloud with my daughter Remy because up until this point, it's she's been really healthy and she's healthy right now.
And hopefully her cloud's when she's like 98.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
totally.
That's what we all hope for.
Yeah, but it is,
I mean, I hope I haven't wished her too young. Maybe 128.
Still going up. Yeah. But it's funny. I have moments though where I just. It's funny. It's almost when I'm most happy. It's really weird how this happens, but like when I'm in a really joyful moment with my partner Mim and Remy, and that's when just I don't know where it comes from, but something pops into my head of something horrific happening to Remy. Yeah. And it really dragged me out of a moment. Yeah. And I don't really know how to express that emotion or deal with that emotion. So sort of naturally just kind of like just put that away and like that's just that's not even real. But my question to you then is because you have experienced the cloud with Lewis, what's that like thinking about your children now? But I think we all as parents, you worry about your kids. about them being, healthy and happy and getting through life. Yeah. Has that changed since you actually really did experience, very close to the death of one of you?
Well, I think I care less. I care less about risk.
Yeah.
I care less about broken bones. Do you know what I mean? And not that I don't care, but I know
just
that
in perspective.
Yeah, there's worse things.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for the children to assert themselves in the world and to ride their bikes and to walk home alone
100%.
and we live in St Kilda, so like one of the terrible pieces
you also
of
grew
life
up in
advice.
Papua New Guinea, mate. Like that is, the most dangerous country in the world by some means.
Correct.
So
but the parts we were in at that time were not.
Okay.
But you couldn't drag me back then.
No,
now.
right. No, no, exactly. So I feel like that's this kind of ties in, and I feel like this ties in with what I'm talking about this sense of independence that you carry. And it's funny, you said that your dad's Dutch and my partner's Dutch, and
they're stoic.
It's
the Dutch.
hectic.
They're
and I
stoic.
can't. There are times when I look at my daughter now, and she's nearly 2, and I look at her and I almost feel a bit estranged from her because she is so independent.
She's stoic.
And
she's
the way
Dutch.
that she picks herself up and the way that she dusts herself up and the way that she'll walk into a group
She's
of kids.
like, hey, Dad, which one of us is the baby? Yeah. Because you seem to do a lot of time crying while I'm carving some shoes out of a piece of wood.
It's actually like that.
Yeah,
it's so intense. And I see in you what I see in Sam as well, which is this just like her dad, the same thing. Her dad is just like, we just carry on, mate. Like, and I'm going to let you go and do your thing.
They ride their bikes in the rain.
It's so hectic.
They ride their bikes in the rain. They live in a country that they
had to
took back from the ocean.
Yeah.
And they wear shoes carved out of wood and find them comfortable.
Yeah.
Like these people are not.
So there's a sense of independence that comes with that. But it's also this beautiful sense of laissez-faire, because I think you can look at that and you can go, that hardens people, but it also opens them because it's like...
It's true.
And I feel like that's
the
kind
Dutch
of this
are a
place
real
where
contradiction.
This place where I feel that's the space that I feel where you are, is this sense of individuality, openness, but then also it might come across as too laissez-faire, but it really comes from a place of love that like if I don't let you go and figure that out by yourself, then I'm going to hurt you in the future because you haven't figured it out by yourself. Yeah. Which that lesson for me didn't stick until Sam and I had a screaming argument about our child, and she was like, it was really simple. It was her teetering
ideology
on the edge of a ledge or something, and I was like, I'm just going to go and take her off that. And she was like, that ledge is going to be in this house for the next 5 years.
I'm talking like a meter. Let's just bring the audience with us. Is it 50 metres?
So she's 1 year old, and I reckon it's about half a metre.
Okay, yeah, I get it.
And I'm looking at that going, it's just going to end badly. I know it's going to end badly. You know it's going to end badly. We had the same thing with bees the other day. We had a bee in the backyard, and I'm allergic to bees. And I said to Sam, I was like, all right, well, there's a couple of bees out here. She's barefooted. I'm just going to get her out here. And she was like, there's bees out there. Let's get her stung as quickly as we can because we're both here right now.
To see what happens if she's...
What? That is just the inverse of how I would deal with this situation. But it's not a bad thing,
so you know the
is
secret to the Dutch is they have a saying about the rain because it rains all the time in Holland. And... as opposed to the Italians who are terrified of the rain and will not go out in the rain, a country where I spent 2 years, right? Yeah. And they lose their minds if you go out with wet hair. Like they just can't. Yeah. They just...
You're not looking right.
But it's just bad, and they've got like 40 expressions for sore throat, right? It's just their thing. The rain, the wet hair, the whatever. Yeah. The Dutch have got a saying. Yeah. You're not made of sugar. You won't melt.
Yeah, not made of sugar.
Brilliant.
That's right.
That's what
you're not made of sugar.
That's who you've had a baby with.
Yeah. No, it's
and
terrifying.
you know what, Will?
What?
You're not made of sugar. You won't melt.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're like, but it's you don't. Who wants to be out in the drizzling rain? But the Dutch know that if you don't go outside in the drizzling rain, you won't do anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you summed this up so beautifully before when you were talking about and you got really passionate about it, which I find really interesting, about the guys who were playing off on the Titanic. and this like sense of, and it's not blind. I think there's a real difference here, and I think this is really important to point out. It's not blind masculine stoicism, which is ignoring what's going on and carrying on and then repressing it and then becoming a piece of shit because you hate yourself because you haven't listened to how you were feeling. It's it's not that. It's acknowledging the fact that you have got something going on, but you can kind of smile with it and you can live with it and you don't have to be a cunt because it's going on.
Well, that's heroicism.
Yeah, and it's,
that's heroicism.
I feel like that kind of
typifies
typifies
that's one
you.
of the, but also that's what men have done for thousands of years. Like men who have gone down mines to work to provide for their families or tilled the soil or whatever they've done or gone out hunting. That is the beauty of men and how men have provided and protected. That's beautiful about men, and when those qualities come into play. And I think that's what women are asking of you guys.
Wow.
Is can you activate those parts of you that recognise what is beautiful about us?
Yeah.
And wants to protect that. And I don't mean in a paternalistic sense. I mean literally.
No, don't be overbearing about it.
Yeah,
like,
you don't need to be, but just keep
yeah.
your eyes out for us.
Yeah.
And sometimes that might mean keeping an eye on some of your male friends or whatever, or a neighbour, but just treasure what is beautiful about us and what we bring to your lives, that we bring the Christmas dinners and the things that you might not even think are important. The girls on your team who remember people's birthdays and who whatever. Tom, who bakes bread.
Totally.
And bring the best of yourselves as men, which is your capacity to protect and to work. And as my girlfriend Rachel once said of her boyfriend, who was a very hard guy to understand because he was almost monosyllabic, but she said to me one day, he would carry me through the snow. You're like, beautiful. What's not to love about that? And conversely, women maybe let ourselves cherish that about you. I mean,
that's
what
so
do
nice.
What do I know?
You know a lot.
Quite a lot.
You know a lot, Kate.
Now I want to finish by asking how you're going. What's your mood? Because you didn't share
never got
that
there.
with
I know,
You asked me.
You
asked me
didn't
what I
answer.
thought, and
you didn't answer.
Well, my read is that here's the thing, Kate. I don't know, because I think you are so good at everything we've been talking about here, and I'm not saying you're hiding anything. I think if there is something,
a strip search coming on.
If there is something going on with you right now, you are one of those violin players on the Titanic, and you are able to. Still
what's
bring
not
a
to
joy.
love about this, right?
Yeah.
So you guys, it's
fun.
uplifting,
nice.
isn't it? It's great.
It's really
Awesome
lovely.
chat.
It's really
It's
lovely.
beautiful.
Sharing
So
ideas.
I feel like the buck up. You have given me a buck up. I feel better now than I did at the start, and I felt fine at the start, just a bit hungover from our mutual friend yesterday and a long lunch and then a girlfriend's party. So I feel great.
That's great to hear.
I feel really good, and I love seeing your faces. I love seeing him, the baker. Blessed be the bakers.
Kate, it's great to see you. Kate's got a brand new podcast with Nate Valvo. It is called The Buck Up. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for coming on.
Love you.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, we love you too. Thank you. Great to see you. Bye-bye.
I'll see you again.
Oh,
I hope so.
Ciao, ciao.